I'm Yin. I was born in Shanghai, China. I moved to Canada in 2001.
I'm Travis, born and raised in Saskatchewan, moved to Vancouver in 2001.
I started getting into about fabrics and all kinds of content and stuff, and I work in New York and Toronto. I was moving in Toronto at the first place, and that time I met Travis. He would just like come visit Vancouver.
Yeah, like next time you're in Vancouver,
for a weekend. So I booked a ticket from New York and came to Vancouver for a weekend. Then I went back and I quit job and moved here.
The idea to start the brand was like the quick strike. We started the brand with quick strikes. Just like putting a jersey out. It was just me thinking of an idea on the way to work in the morning, getting here, designing it, printing it, cutting it, sewing it. I did all that myself. And I'd take it upstairs, lay it on the concrete floor, take a photo of it, put it on the Instagram, put it on the website, put one for sale for like 180 bucks, because it'd take me all day to do it. But just put one for sale. And then we'd sell that one and go do another one. Sometimes it would take days to sell one. And then we started like, okay, well, you could probably sell 5. So then we started making 5 available, then 10, then we'd open it up for 2 weeks worth of sales, and then after 2 weeks we'd shut it off and then spend another week or 2 making them and sending them out. Pants have always kind of been the golden ticket, but we couldn't start there. So basically a year and a half of making jerseys and t-shirts, whatever else we could do, just to see if people are gonna like accept the brand. And then like, I didn't really know too many mountain bikers.
For me at the beginning, I just think this brand's gonna grow because that's his passion. Like, since I knew him, I know he's like outdoor kind of guy since he was a kid. He knows everything. I learned a lot from him in that part, because I grew up in China. There's no, like in the 80s, there's nothing there. So he has the eyes for that. He speaks the same language. He knows that. So I kind of know, because I'm very conservative. Like, if I think, no, I don't want to take a risk. I don't want to go that direction if I don't think it's right. But when he told me about that brand, mountain biking, he wants to try, I'm like, okay, let's do it then.
I just know how extremely hard, like we deal with, like back when we were contracting, we're dealing with so many small brands that figured that maybe they were creating a movement or had the secret, but like, it's just extremely hard. Like 90% of brands fail, and then 2 years after that, another 90% fall off. So like we figured that if we're gonna start a brand, we really had to catch the attention of people quickly and give them something to look at. So we had that sublimation printer over there, and I've just figured like, well, we could really go crazy with jerseys. And I know from my experience with big brands that when you decide to go to market with something, it's very, 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 very well thought out by a lot of people. So what you end up is with something super, super, you know, like safe. Well, Needs Factory was basically all you need, nothing more, nothing less. Because I was just kind of really sick of seeing all the over-designed product in this industry. And the second you start over-designing stuff, whatever your reason for that is, you're just overcomplicating it, making it too expensive, making it uncomfortable, making it prone to fall apart. Just there's no upside to it other than maybe impressing your boss who wants to see a lot of technical skill out of you. Like, the only reason it needs to be there is because somebody else did it, then somebody else did it, and then somebody else did it. Then some young designer figures that's the only way. So they do it because it's safe or it's easy or whatever, right? So all you need, nothing more, nothing less. Like, that's kind of been the design philosophy. The other, like the reason for that is, as you can see, we've got a tiny production line and a small team, so it's got to be simple. So our number one thing was like, okay, we have a small team and we don't want any of this stuff to fall apart, because like we don't want to deal with warranty and returns down the road. Like, that's just not cool. And we want something that's going to stay in place the second you put it on till the second you take it off. So Needs Factory was basically a play on our design philosophy, and then we were legally forced to stop using that name because There's a big kind of online fashion retailer in the States called Needs Supply Co. who had a problem with us using Needs. I literally lost 3 months of sleep on how we were going to rebrand. I was like, Needs Factory, like people, like that's what people are into right now. Like people, that's what are we gonna do? Like rename it? So I was like thinking like Mountain Highway and like all these names, and like every time I think of something, I'm like, that's a step backwards. It's gonna kill us. Like it's just not gonna work. This is probably how many attempts at creating a brand? This is maybe number 5 or 6, maybe 7. So I've learned over the years, and we've lost a lot of brands to trademarks, and that was the end of it. I was just like, okay, we're done. So like I've always had a plan B. So like that little ENNEF icon was kind of like the plan B to like the Needs Factory wordmark, which was dominant in all of our products up until then. So instead of like complete rebranding, I just slowly started giving you a little more of the ENNEF logo and taking away the Needs Factory logo a little bit. And over a few months, nobody even noticed. Nobody even noticed that we changed the name. So
People
now, like
still
ENNEF,
call Needs.
yeah, like some people still call it Needs, but now that is the main logo, and there's not a Needs Factory anywhere to be seen, and literally nobody even noticed. Our athletes are the backbone to this brand. Like seriously, the first thing that I wanted to do once I had a few jerseys and a logo and a website and an Instagram page was find somebody to shoot it on. So Jay and Caleb and Brendan Edgar are the first 3 guys that I started shooting, and I've got a bit of a photography background as well, so like it was nice to be able to get some guys who shred, who we could go get some picturesque photos on the shore in the gear, and that kind of started it off. We got Reese Ellis, who's out in Tasmania running the Medina Bike Park. So he jumped on board, and then we just kind of started adding people. Steve actually came to me a couple years ago after seeing some of the guys and possibly thinking that he could be a contender. If they're riding your gear, I think I should be able to ride your gear. We've always said that we're not necessarily going after the big name riders. Like we like the local heroes and the grassroots kind of aspect of the stuff, and part of that has to do with budget, and part of it has to do with like just who we are, and like I'm extremely involved. Like these guys are family to me. Like I'm extremely involved on a day-to-day basis with everyone. So the biggest challenges that we face owning and operating a Vancouver-based garment factory is finding skilled workers. Anybody can sew together a garment, but to do it quickly, perfectly, every single time in a production line setting it takes years of experience. Like all of our machine operators have a minimum of 20 years experience running not only sewing machines, but a particular type of machine. So Ida, she kind of runs them all, but Lan is a cover stitch machine operator, June is a serger operator, Hone is a single needle stitch operator. Extremely talented on each of their individual machines, and they're all facing retirement, which we're very supportive of, but there's nobody to fill their shoes. Which asks us, where are we going to be in 3 years from now? Probably being made somewhere else.
Well, for sure, we try to keep in North American for the
I think we'll
near
always
future,
do like a small collection in our own facility, but it's definitely not going to be the majority of the products that we produce. If we could, we would, but we can't, so we won't. If you look at us now and our team, you and me, versus, you know, like a big brand that's got,
yeah, I don't know how
let's say
to
a small brand which has 60 employees in the operations department. Like the hard thing for me is like, how do we go from us to 60 and not being like a successful move? Like for me, just understanding the amount of like HR and management and recruiting and payroll and fundraising and everything that you got to do to go from this to that, that's just another massive mountain to climb. Like to get to where we are now was a big mountain. That feels like an even bigger one. So I'd say, you know, like getting to that next phase where, you know, like I can go missing for 3 weeks and nobody notices. That's the goal. but like getting there, that's going to be a challenge. Other brands are putting a lot of resources, time, and energy into creating like a waterproof, breathable garment for mountain biking. And I think we're happy to let those guys do that. They can go ahead and chase that unicorn, but I can ask anybody, picture your perfect day on a bike. It's not going to be slogging through the mud on a wet, cold day in the middle of winter, is it? It's going to be like a nice sunny day with the boys, maybe in the bike park or, you know, Chilcotins or something like that. So we're going to focus all of our efforts on making the best product for the best days. At the end of a wet ride and you're at the car, what's the biggest problem? Are you cold and wet, or the mess you got to deal with? You can be wet and still comfortable, right? Especially when you're working hard. Most people associate wet days with a negative experience. Maybe subconsciously they don't know what that negative experience is, but I'm pretty sure it's the mess. It's like getting all that gear off, putting it in a muddy ball, throwing it in the back of your truck, and then getting into your truck, and then getting home and still having to deal with that messy ball. It's not like getting down and being like, oh, I'm wet, cold, and uncomfortable. Like, no, I'm wet and I feel like I'm in a warm bathtub, but I got this terrible mess to deal with. So it doesn't matter if you got a $700 pair of Gore-Tex pants that are crunchy and that don't stretch and are probably not that breathable, you got zippers everywhere, that mess is still gonna be there. You're probably still gonna be wet. So like, I think we're gonna steer away from the waterproof, breathable Gore-Tex vibe and stick to comfort and just make like superior products that are just extremely comfortable in a nice day and some not so nice days.